not for others. Asiatics नहीं, Indian नहीं. So on the gate it was written, dogs and Indians are not allowed.
Subhas entered Presidency College. He's fondly remembered for standing up for the rights of his fellow Indians when he was a student here.
Being the child of any successful parent, you get a degree of reflected glory, whether you like it or not. In my case, of course, it's a bit easier because for most of the time, I live in a country where people do not know or do not take much account of who my father is. And I can sort of live my own life and not be cast in the shadow of my father, so to say.
Subhas passed his exams with flying colours. In 1919, he enrolled at Cambridge University in England to prepare for entry into the Indian Civil Service, the ICS.
In British India, you have pretty strong racism. In British India, he is a black man. He's an Indian. And in Britain, it's different.
After only 8 months of study, Subhas passed the extremely difficult Indian Civil Service exam. To his surprise, he was the 4th best in his year. It threw him into a personal crisis.
Does he want to be a servant of the British Raj? After he thinks about it for a while, he says no. The British, they're not thrilled that one of the top candidates would drop out, so they say, please reconsider, you don't know what you're giving up. And he says no.
Bose returned to India to begin a career as a politician, helped by the reputation of his Cambridge degree and by his family connections. The Calcutta region was prone to flooding. Poverty was endemic. Bose organised famine relief in eastern Bengal, impressing Indians and the British alike. But it was Bose's fervent nationalism that didn't go down well with the British colonial authorities. He soon organised protests and strikes against British rule. His declared goal was to kick the British out of India. There were even rumours that he had links with Bengali terrorists. It didn't take long until he was arrested. Time and again over the next 10 years, Bose was locked up for his anti-British activities. In prison, his health declined. To avoid turning him into a martyr, he was released into the care of his family. The precondition was that he left India for a lengthy period of time. In 1933, he boarded a ship to Europe. His destination was Austria, where he was diagnosed as having a stone in his gallbladder. After an operation, Bose's health gradually improved. As he couldn't be in India, he would continue his struggle on the international stage.
He calls himself, during this European period, Ambassador of India in Bondage. He wants Europeans, non-British, to support the efforts of India to obtain independence from the British Empire.
Writing his autobiography, he hired a young Austrian woman, Emilia Schenkel, as his secretary. The two fell in love and secretly got married.
One thing attracted my father, that basically she was a rather self-assured woman. She found him very attractive, very charming. He was one of the people who, of course, always wanted women to play a strong role, and that, of course, was an exceedingly unusual attitude for a man at that time, even more so than what it is today.
In India, there are many reminders of Bose's travels in the German-speaking world. It's made him hugely popular among the Indian young. For Anita, there is little she can do to escape her celebrity status as the daughter of one of India's greatest independence heroes. Back in 1933, Anita's father was heading from Vienna to Berlin. It was the beginning of the most controversial aspect of the Indian nationalist's life. He'd come to meet the Nazis who'd recently taken over power. Bose was impressed by the supposed efficiency of the Nazi regime. He told others that he wanted a combination of socialist ideals and fascist discipline for India. But he criticized that the Nazis considered Indians racially inferior. Bose held meetings with Nazi officials. He wanted Germany's political support for Indian independence and asked for a meeting with the Führer himself. But Hitler wasn't interested.
In his book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, written in the 1920s, Hitler declared that the British rule in India in the very best interest of the white person's race. So in that respect, he considered for very crude reasons that Indians cannot be trusted. Indians are unable to govern themselves. So this primitive racism prevented Bose to get any kind of systematic political alliance with Nazi Germany before 1941.
It was time to return to India. Bose's stay abroad had greatly increased his reputation as an ambassador of Indian independence.
I'm proud of my father because he was a man of great integrity. I think he must have been a very magnetic person. And those people who even saw him at a distance themselves, I had heard many incidents that they said, well, I just saw him from a distance and he looked at me and it made a difference to my life.
But there was someone who was even more popular than Bose.
Mahatma Gandhi is absolutely unique. Gandhi says the means are as important as the ends. If you have a goal and you use corrupt means, you use violent means to achieve it, you contaminate the goal that you seek.
Even though Subhas believed that the use of violence against the British was legitimate, Gandhi brought him into the mainstream of the Indian nationalist movement. He even ensured that Bose was elected president of the Indian National Congress Party.
Now, about Gandhi, you have to remember, although
He even ensured that Bose was elected president of the Indian National Congress Party.
Now, about Gandhi, you have to remember, although he sounds like a saint, he's a politician. He's a master of raising money. He's a master of propaganda. He's a master of choosing men who will help him.
But Bose became disillusioned with the lack of zeal amongst Congress leaders, like Jawaharlal Nehru, Gandhi's favorite political protege. Subhas publicly advocated the use of violence against the British.
India is going to be free. Our struggle is no doubt a non-violent struggle. But even a non-violent struggle demands an army, an organization, and a machinery.
Gandhi was shocked, and Bose was forced to resign. He rallied the radical Indian left around him and set up a new political party, the Forward Bloc. But events a long way from India were working against him.
Der Großangriff auf London nimmt seinen Anfang.
Britain was under attack by Nazi Germany. In August 1940, German bombers were flying raids against London. There was widespread talk of an imminent invasion. Britain's ultra-conservative new Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, advocated a tough hand in India, while the war in Europe was threatening the survival of Britain as an independent nation. Now wasn't the time to go soft on Indian nationalists.
Churchill is a great war leader for Great Britain and a disaster for India. He talks about Indians in such an incredibly condescending, almost racist way that he is hated in India.
Bose and his followers were arrested. The forward bloc movement came to a halt.
Bose had undertaken a hunger strike in prison, and the British did not want him to die on their hands, and so had allowed him to go home with the intention of rearresting him as soon as he regained his health.
But Bose managed to escape. In disguise, he headed north. He then walked across the border into Afghanistan. His life was in great danger, as newly discovered documents prove.
From London, an order went out to the Special Operations Executive in Istanbul and Cairo that they should wire what arrangements they could make for Subhash Chandra Bose's assassination. Clearly, the British saw him as their most resourceful and inveterate opponent, and during the war, they were prepared to go to any lengths to stop him.
Afghanistan was the playground of the world's intelligence services. Everywhere, Bose had to suspect a British agent. His cover was about to be blown when he received an exit visa. Bose boarded a train and headed north. His first stop was Moscow.
Bose was always very much impressed by the Soviet Union, by Lenin, even by Stalin, and he was always interested to get a kind of relationship with the Soviet politicians.
But Stalin didn't trust the Indian nationalist. He feared that Bose might be a British agent. Subhas only received a transit visa and was forced to continue his journey. His final destination was Germany, which had a non-aggression treaty with the Soviet Union. The political situation had changed fundamentally since his last visit to Berlin. The Nazis were at the height of their power, the masters of Western and Central Europe. Bose wanted to enlist their help in his struggle for Indian independence.
In the early 40s, he felt that the old imperialisms of the British and the French and the Dutch were in conflict with the new imperialisms of Germany, Japan, and Italy. And the colonized countries of Asia might as well take advantage of that conflict to press for their own freedom.
Within 6 days of his arrival in Berlin, Bose requested Germany and Italy to make statements in support of Indian independence. He also demanded